All right. Hi, and welcome to the next webinar in the Plantae webinar series. My name is Jason Padilla, and I am your technical host for today's webinar. This webinar series is brought to you today by Plantae, the open online community for plant scientists powered by the American Society of Plant Biologists. Next slide, please. I would like to give a special thank you to all ASPB members who are attending today's webinar. Your ASPB membership dues help support making this webinar possible. For any of you who have not yet joined ASPB, you can join today using the discount code %10 to receive 10% discount on your membership sign up. All ASPB members get really access to several ASPB member benefits. And you can learn more about ASPB and all the opportunities we provide at aspb.org. Next slide, please. This webinar is recorded, and so we will post them on our YouTube channel. So if you're looking for additional great plant science content, be sure to check out the Plantae YouTube channel so you can access all the webinars that we've had in the past. And again, this will also be added to that library once we're done. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items to make sure that we get the most out of your attendance in today's webinar. If you are experiencing technical issues, let us know about those using the Q&A box, or you can email me directly at jpd@aspb.org. If you have questions to our guest speakers, add them also on the Q&A box. You'll see that on your Zoom panel. We'll have a Q&A portion for this webinar, and so our moderators will be sharing them with our presenters and kind of work through and getting those answered. Finally, if you have trouble connecting or your internet might be acting up or you need to leave the webinar early, as I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and will be added to the YouTube library. So you could remember to check back and watch the recording there if you need to leave early or having difficulty staying sort of in the webinar. And also, if you need to share that with your colleagues who can be here, you can also do that by sharing the link to that YouTube recording once it's done. And so with that, I will now turn over the floor to our moderators who will be facilitating today's session. And so with that, take it away, Plantae Fellows.
Hi, Monse. Yeah, can we go to the next slide? Yes. So hello. Firstly, we would like to introduce the moderator, so ourselves. So I am Atharv. I'm a second year PhD student in the Swammerdam Institute of Life Sciences at the University of Amsterdam, and yeah, my research involves the metabolic dialogue between plants and microorganisms in the rhizosphere.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Montserrat Lopez. I'm a biochemist and a molecular plant biologist with experience in both industry and academia. And I'm passionate about science communication and education, and that's why I'm here.
Today we will discuss what all things do we keep in mind when starting in new lab, the challenges that one faces when during our career, our scientific careers, we rarely stick to one lab and we switch amongst multiple labs in order to grow our network, our expertise, our skill sets, and so on. Today, our panel of four excellent scientists will give us some practical onboarding tips, take us through some unwritten rules of the lab, and give you some tips on starting your research smoothly while avoiding any kind of burnout. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So the outline of the webinar looks like we will start with the speaker introductions, and then the four speakers, they will present their thoughts and present their talk, and at the end of that we will have a Q&A session and a panel discussion. So feel free to post your questions in the Q&A box, and looking forward to the talks. Now I would like to hand over the floor to Montse to introduce our speakers.
We're truly excited to welcome four exceptional researchers whose careers have taken them around the world. Today, you will hear from scientists working at the forefront of plant biology, biotechnology, and plant-microbe interactions. Our first speaker is Dr. Tatsuya Nobori, group leader at the Sainsbury Laboratory TSL in Norwich, UK. Dr. Nobori completed his bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Tokyo and carried out research internships at the CEI Cadarache in France. Also, he received his PhD in 2019 from the Max Planck Institute from Plant Breeding Research and later conducted postdoctoral research at the Salk Institute in San Diego before joining TSL in 2024. His laboratory studies the molecular and spatiotemporal dynamics of individual cells within the integrated system of a host and its associated microbes by developing and combining advanced genomics and imaging technologies to investigate plant-microbe interactions. Next, we're pleased to welcome Dr. Fernando Guzman Chavez, professor researcher at the Faculty of Chemistry of National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, and he completed his undergraduate and master's degree at the UNAM and earned his PhD in biotechnology and synthetic biology from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. He later held two postdoctoral positions at the University of Cambridge, where he worked on cell-free systems and chloroplast engineering. His research has also included metabolic engineering of actinomycetes and the development of novel vaccine production platforms. Currently, his work focuses on biosynthetic pathways of bioactive peptides from microorganism engineering of filamentous fungi for high-value biologics. And low-cost pathogen detection systems using cell-free and CRISPR-Cas technologies. Our third speaker is Dr. Ilian Giordano Ponce Pineda, as a postdoctoral researcher at the Umeå Plant Science Center in Sweden. With background in molecular plant biology, his research focused on chloroplast retrograde signaling during early seedling growth. He studies GAN1, a key plasmid localized regulator of this pathway in Arabidopsis thaliana. By combining tandem mass spectrometry, protein-protein interaction, mutant analysis, and gene expression studies, Dr. Ponce has identified two new candidates interaction partners of GAN1 involved in plasmid RNA regulation. His recent presentation and the new Phytologist Next Generation Scientist 2025 meeting generate a strong interest within the international plant research community. And finally, we are honored to introduce Dr. Ashit Sheikh, a molecular plant biologist and assistant professor at the Utrecht University at the Netherlands. He completed his PhD at the National Institute of Plant Genome Research in India and later held postdoctoral positions at the University of Warwick in the UK and at KAUST in Saudi Arabia. Dr. Sheikh research integrates signaling pathways, RNA biology, and epigenetic regulation to understand how plants respond to nutrient and biotic stresses. His work focuses on plant-microbe interactions and the regulation of plant immunity, combining both research and teaching to explore the molecular mechanisms underlying plant adaptation. So we are truly grateful to have such an international, diverse, and accomplished group of scientists with us today. Without further ado, let's begin our webinar.
So let's start the webinar with Dr. Tatsuya, who will take us through some onboarding strategies and the early mindset that you should apply when spending some initial days in your lab. So I would like to invite Dr. Tatsuya to deliver his talk.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Bear with me. Okay, hope you can see that. Okay, so, well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Tatsuya Nobori from the Sainsbury Lab. And yeah, about starting a new lab. I think I've done this 5 times myself, as Mansara introduced. I did my bachelor's research in Japan and half of my master's in France and did my PhD in Germany. postdoc in the US, and I started my own group here in the UK. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I was looking back on what was important when I started in each lab. And it was quite difficult to find anything in common, even within myself, perhaps because, every time I move into a new lab, I was moving into a new career stage, new country, and of course, new laboratory environment. So there seems to be no one fits all rule. That said, I decided today to focus on just one small aspect of a skill that may be more transferable. So today, I will talk about the communication skills, and especially the communicating your expectations with your PI and with your mentor. The alignment of your expectation is quite important to do science happily, because the lack of it might look like, for example, while you want to become an independent researcher, your mentor or your PI keeps micromanaging you, not allowing you to think independently. Or, for example, while you want to pursue an industry career after your degree, your PI keeps providing opportunities as if you want to pursue the academic career or something like this. And importantly, the alignment is a continuous and two-way process. You need to, of course, know what you want, but also you need to understand what is expected from the lab. And both you and your lab will change over time, so it has to be continuous. So to navigate this, today I will quickly talk about three things. First, revealing expectations early, and then co-design your feedback rhythm and keep alignment alive as you evolve. So the first vignette, so even before you start in a new lab, you need to know what you want. So this is, when you look for a potential lab for your next stage. So first, know what you want, so you could reflect on in what kind of environment you can grow better. Or how do you want to grow in your next stage of your career? And I think including these elements, these thoughts in your application, and discussing why you think that the lab you're applying to is a good fit will be well appreciated. I personally really appreciate such an application. It's more personalized and touching up on not only this, the science projects, but also how you want to do science, how you want to grow. I think because in that way, I can, easily imagine how I can mentor that person well. So that will be important. And also you can think about any specific support you need, depending on your personality or your personal situations. And again, it's a mutual process. You also would want to know what the lab wants, and you can ask questions during interviews or if you have a chance to visit the lab. There are many questions. For example, you can ask, to the PI, you could ask something like, what do students and postdocs in your lab who succeed in your lab tend to have in common? So that could be a revealing question about expectation without asking, so directly. To the lab members, it's also important to have a good conversation with the potential colleagues. You could ask, for example, what surprised you when you joined this lab? And also, it's important to know what kind of support exists. It's totally okay to ask what support they can provide during the interviews. So which could be scientific support, training, mentoring, but also other practical support, including immigration, relocation, which, is increasingly more challenging these days. I had a lot of support from different institutions. So it's good to know what kind of support is available, and also anything related to well-being is worth knowing before you make a decision. Now, if you find a lab that fits your need, and when you start in your new lab in the first weeks or month, it's good to design your feedback rhythm with your mentor. And again, I cannot speak for other PIs, but at least what I try to do when I have a new member in the lab is I'm trying to calibrate things like how frequent I should give the feedback, and how detailed the feedback should be, how candid it should be, and so on. And it can take time, especially when we are from different cultures, right? Because I need to kind of understand the person and calibrate things. But you could help smooth this process by being a bit more proactive. So you could ask proactively for feedback, just to show that you really want a feedback. You could be more explicit about what you want in terms of cadence, of candor, format of the feedback. I know, some of the things may be kind of difficult to directly ask, and that's totally fine. You don't have to take full initiative of setting, this up, because it's a mutual process. But anything you feel comfortable, I think asking it early will really help. And the third, so to keep the alignment going. So your expectations would evolve as you evolve. So should your alignment. So I think if you starting a PhD and you finishing a PhD should be quite different person, different scientist. So I think you will have different expectations, and you need to adjust what you need over times. So that's why I think it's useful to frequently reflect. What do I want now? What's working? What's not? And then discuss that with your mentor. Communicate what you think. Also listen to what the PI thinks. And you could also, of course, give feedback to them, and then adjust together. You can decide what to change and what to keep. And run this cycle. I think this seems quite obvious, right? But you can easily forget as you become busier with day-to-day experiments or lectures or writing papers or theses. So I think it's good to keep that in mind. And it might also be useful if there's a mechanisms to remind this. For example, in our institute at TSL, we have an annual career development review, which is a one-on-one discussion, a formal discussion where you can talk about this kind of things, or even more things. So it happens every year. Actually, it's happening this week and coming weeks. And I found it quite useful to reflect, discuss, adjust what individual lab members need. And as you run this cycle, I hopefully, the trust will be formed, and that will last even after you leave the lab. So I think that would be great. So yeah, so I think that's it in this quick presentation. I talked about the importance of aligning your expectation with the PI. And there are a few things you can keep in mind. So know your expectations early, even before you join the lab. And once you joined, discuss early with your PI openly about what you need, what they need, and then keep the alignment going as you evolve and as the lab also evolves. So yeah, with that, I want to thank my lab members, whom I learned a lot from. So today I mostly kind of spoke to students and postdocs, but the same thing applied to PIs, right? You just turn things around. And as a PI, I've been really learning a lot from my lab members. And I also thank the colleagues at TSL, the group leaders and support teams. And I thank all the mentors, my mentors, especially my PhD mentor, Ken Tsuda, and also my postdoc mentor, Joe Ecker. So yeah, thank you for your attention, and happy to take questions later.
Thank you so much, Dr. Now let's, give me a second, sorry. Let's hear about Dr. Fernando Guzman that will share his experience in career strategy and developing a career identity.
Dr. Fernando, I think
Yeah.
you're muted.
Yes. Thank you so
Great.
much for the invitation. I think I hope that how I follow this route to be from a PhD student to become a PI can help to the others. This experience is from the point of view from a person from Latin America. Maybe it's not applied to in all the contexts, but I think that it could be helpful for many of people. So I'm going to start with the next slides, where I show you how was my career path. So after I did my bachelor and master degree in Mexico, I decided to move to another country because I think that if you keep in your country, at least in the Latin American context to do a PhD is not really good because you know a lot of stuff, or many of they are not really specialized in topics. So I decided to move to the Netherlands, and after they allowed me to go to Cambridge, and after go back to Mexico. I think that here is a key point that I would like to share, that from the beginning, I always keep in my mind that I wanted to go back to my country. But it's not something that applied from many people, because after they stayed in another university in another country, they decide to stay there and start a new life. But I think that an important point for these new students or new postdocs that have in mind to follow an academic career, they need to have in mind this, or maybe decide during the route. So when I decide to choose a lab, I always keep in mind the Netherlands. I think that two of the panelists are in the Netherlands, and I think that I'm not sure if this applies for everybody, but when I choose the Netherlands, the things that I like it is that it's really an international environment, which is really good, because you instead in my lab during my PhD, we don't have, or we were not a lot of people from the Netherlands, so they are more international, and this is really good because it's not applied from other labs, but at least in this country, they have a really life balance between working and do science, which I think that is not happens in many of other countries, specifically in America. So I think that in the US is more competitive. So here is a really friendly space, which for me was really good because it allowed me to have this interaction with my PI that allowed me to boost my career, because we have every month or every 2 weeks a meetings, which is good. Also, I found really excellent supervisors because during my PhD, I not only have one supervisor, I also have a second supervisor that come from the industry, which was a really good aspect. Another thing that I like it to when I choose these labs, or at least in the Netherlands, is that you can publish your thesis. Is basically made from the collection of your papers or potential papers, which is not happens at least in Mexico. In Mexico, you have to write a doctoral thesis from one topic. But here is really good because you can put all together and you show your papers like a chapters of the thesis, which is something that I think that is really useful when you go out. Also, is nice to know that you have this family, or you need when you move to a country, you need to take in mind that you will need a family and friend support, which I easily find here. In my experience, if somebody asks me if I can repeat or I want you wanted to repeat my PhD, I can say that yes. I know that there are many students that I struggle with this, but in my case, I really enjoyed it to do a PhD, and if I could repeat this experience. When I went abroad, this this country, or at least Groningen, is a really small city. So you have to take in mind which kind of city you need to you arrive, because it's not the same to be in a small city like Groningen to another huge city like London. So that is why I decided to move in another step to do a postdoc in Cambridge. Cambridge is also a small town, but the difference between this lab and now Cambridge was that they have more interaction, because you in Groningen you are a bit isolated because it's in the north and the farthest way in the Netherlands, but in Cambridge is really central, and so this allows you to have this interaction and start to develop networking. The networking, I can say, is essential because you start meeting new people that eventually they are going to be your colleagues or potential collaborators. So again, I always recommend to the people that publish. And also, when you choose a lab, be in mind that for some of times when you're a postdoc, you're hired for a specific project. But if you can find a professor that allow you to have research freedom, is something that is really good for your career. Because in the meantime, when I was developing my project, I could participate in a side projects that allowed me to publish and also get more experience. So that's in this point is when I decided to go back to Mexico. But you have to take in mind that when you are outside from your country like 10 years, it's something difficult when you need to go back because nobody knows you. And you need some visibility, because if you want to look for a place to establish your research group, you need to have this visibility. So that is why I decided to go with the expert in the field in Mexico. And after you go outside in the forest country for a long time, and specifically in Europe, when you go back, it's a bit difficult because you start to see that there is the academic hierarchies, which is not happening at least in Europe. And in the Latin American context, there is something that is so that you have to take in mind, that there is a effect that the at least here in Mexico they call the baby doctors. That these people that go back to the foreign country, that they have learned a lot on high skills, and they feel like there is like I don't know how to say, a potential risk for them. But anyway, but this is why I started to chasing the opportunity. So have visibility, and it's something that take in mind in the place that you wanted to become eventually a professor. So the first opportunity was local. This is like I became a PI like in this program in Mexico, but it's just a program that keep the people in the country and not go back. So eventually I became a PI in my alma mater university, which was my first intention, my main goal. But I have to say that you have to be positive, patient, and persistent, because as something that happens in Mexico, and I think happens in in many countries, is that maybe the universities don't hire the most qualified people. So most of the time they hire the people that they know, and many of them they are all previous students. So you have to face with this, but be persistent and patient, because I think that the opportunity is waiting for you in a specific part of in a specific point of your career. So with this, I wanted to finish my intervention here, and if somebody wants to ask me something, I will be happy to answer you any question that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fernando, for sharing your experience. Now, let's hear to Dr. Ilian Ponce Pineda to how to understanding different communication styles, power dynamics, and unwritten roles in a laboratory ambience. So when you're ready, Dr. Giordano.
Yeah, thank you. Just do you have the slides there, right? Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, I take another side to start this talk. And the most important thing about this, what are you going to expect when you go to a new lab? So how things work in this new environment that you're going to. For example, again, like most of you are going to move not from another country, just to another continent like me. I moved from Mexico now to Sweden, to north of Sweden, which is completely different. So when I just came here and started thinking in a new lab, I was thinking, okay, I will learn new techniques, new protocols, new equipment, how to use them, new research questions. But when I arrived here in Sweden, then I quickly realized that it was not my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge was to be a cultural challenge. So I told you, I come from Mexico. Spanish is my first language. So suddenly I was working completely in English and sometimes in Swedish because fortunately, most of the people here in Sweden, they speak English too and really well, but not completely all of them. Some of them still, they speak only Swedish. And then it was really difficult for me to change my mind to start to talking in English, for example. Not that many native speakers in Spanish, just a few, and not Mexicans from other countries too. So these people that came, also most of them, they come with English as the second or third language, and that challenges everything. For example, here at the UMIA the UMIA Plant Science Center, we're currently 49 nationalities. 49. Imagine, we are a lot of different people from different countries, different contexts, different communication styles, educational backgrounds, a lot of different things, and different expectations of all of them too. So the first real challenge was not pipetting or not doing some specific samples, was to ask me, how do things really or actually work here? So can we change to the next slide, please? Okay, so what are the unwritten rules here? How everything is going to work? In Mexico, I knew, and I worked in a more hierarchical system, as the previous speaker was telling. Yeah, it's more hierarchical. We know which one is, but here no. Here it's more shared with everybody. For example, here we share all the different equipments, the lab, even the lab. We are working in a big lab shared by postdocs, PhD students, master students, exchange students, and research assistants. All of us are working at the same place at the same time, and not from only one PI, as in Mexico, from 7, 8, 9 different PIs at the same time. So that's kind of difficult. We need to learn how to share the equipments, how the kits for specific things are shared, the space is shared. So that's maybe sounds simple, but it requires a completely different mindset to really get into that. And you just do take something. You need to coordinate with somebody else. You need to check the booking system. You think in others' experiments too. You need to know how to communicate to other people. That's completely different. And no one really gives you a manual. Okay, that's how you are going to do it. When I started here, I just needed to know how I was going to do all the different things. I remember, for example, when my first week I was trying to enter to the greenhouse. Here you need an introductory course to get into the greenhouse, to get the access. And I received an email from another person that it was resended, this email. They were saying, okay, the introduction will be at 10 a.m. in the morning this day. I showed up at 10 in the morning, and what happened? Anybody came. Then later I learned that they have me moved this meeting till 9 in the morning, and it was like, I didn't knew about that, but I didn't really receive the last message. And when I tried to say, okay, I will attend to this meeting, they were I couldn't find really the email from that person that was going to give you the introduction. So it was really difficult for me. Fortunately, at the end, this person that was also running the greenhouse, he explained me everything, and at the end I get access. But still, it's time, and it's really, you didn't really know how are going to work all the things here and how the system is really working. It's a small misunderstanding, nothing really dramatic, but still, it can happen. Systems are really different, assumptions are really different. And then, as a new person, you don't even know what you don't know. So you need to really think about what you need to do and how are you going to do, how to work with different personalities also and different cultures. Another major adjustment was that one, the communication style. In multicultural labs like this one, we don't really just have different nationalities. We have different emotional languages, which is really different, for me, difficult. For example, my PI is Swedish, true Swedish. And Swedish communication, at least in my experience, is more reserved, more neutral, less expressive, sorry. As a Mexican, normally I'm used to for more emotional feedback. If something is good, you see it, you can see it. I can see it in my former PI, in her face. If something is wrong, you also feel it. But here was not the case. Feedback can be really calm, very direct, very neutral. So I was like, I'm not sure. At the beginning, I wasn't sure if I was doing good, I was doing bad, is this normal or not? Then somebody explained me that that's just how the things work here. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It is what it is. Okay. So I'm learning that. That was a huge lesson for me. Direct doesn't mean that it's rude. Indirect doesn't mean that it's weak. They are just different cultural codes. And you need to learn to interpret all these kind of things. And misinterpret tone, you can create problems that maybe they are not there. Maybe they are only in your mind. So that's something that also you need to focus in. Next slide, please. So with this in mind, there's something important. It's how to communicate your thoughts, your own thoughts. And I also learned that the hard way when I was supervising a master student that just came here from the Netherlands, talking about that. I was supervising her and I was, okay, she was doing all the things. And then when she wrote her report, she sent it to me and I started to correcting her report as I'm used to, because I learned in Mexico and I know how my former PI used to correct my work. So I corrected in the way that it was very directly with many comments, all in red. I don't know if some of you have experimented that, but I have experimented a lot that. And later I found out that she, after receive it and read it, she had gone home crying. She felt that she was not good enough for anything. And I was like, that was not my intention at all. For me, the correction means improvement. It means growth. It means I care about your development and the things that you need to focus on to continue to get better researcher. But for her, it was like a real failure. So after that, we talked. I explained that the feedback is part of the process. That being corrected doesn't mean that you are doing bad. It means that you are learning, like all of us. So after the conversation, everything changed. She gained confidence again, and then the project went very well. But again, you have that in mind. That experience taught me a critical thing, that it's one unclear message, even if it's technically correct, can escalate emotionally to something really bad. So we need to think really that. So I started to think also in my asking myself, could one unclear sentence become a larger conflict? Okay, next slide, please. So then, how to thrive in this new environment. Finally, thriving in a new lab is not only about surviving these differences that we are among each other. It's to make boundaries, it's to make different connections between different people, between different personalities that we are here. It's about building belonging. So when you move to a new country, new language, new culture, the loneliness can appear really, really quietly, but there. And more if you are going to go to another country that is completely different. For example, for me, when I started here, the food was a real shock because I'm used to a food with a more flavor, spicy, hot, and here was completely different. And that I didn't realize it was okay, just eating and that. But I wasn't really enjoying, and then started to strike me, and I started to have a little bit of depression, also because it's not of Sweden, not so many sunlight. So, of course, there are things that you need to think about it. I realized I could either wait to be included or to do something that actively something to create a connection, to create I feel in home. I feel again like I belong here. So, for example, here at the UPSC, Plant Science Center, there are some social activities that have been organizing. For example, beer afternoons, movie nights. And instead of only attending, I decided to organize something myself. And something, for example, that I really enjoyed is video games. So I decided to start a video game night. And they received it really well. And now they're really enjoying these video game nights that I'm organizing every 1 or 2 months. So that's really good. It sounds something small, but it changes everything, really. And it helped me to build trust among all the different people here. In little conversations outside science, it created informal bridges between each other. And now, for example, I'm also part of another society, which is the UMEO Postdoc Society. And we are also organizing so many things. For example, this last weekend, we went to the Karl Bat. I don't know if you know that, but it's this ice bathing that they do a lot here in Sweden. So, of course, most of the people were scared, but come on, we can handle it together, like a real connection. And then, because the science is collaborative, that's something really important. Collaboration requires human connection, again, between each other. So, if I had to summarize what helped me when I just came here, I can say that I observed everything, how it works. I ask if I have any question, even if it's small or big, I ask everything. I start to adapt to this new environment and then build trust again between each other. And I leave you now with this question at the end. Are we really communicating clearly enough to grow together or not? I am really, thank you for all the invitation, and I will be free for all the questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elian, for what was a nice talk. And now let's welcome our final speaker for the day, Dr. Arshid, who will be talking about how to ensure your well-being and preventing any kind of burnout while joining a new lab. So, yeah.
Okay, do you see my slides?
Yeah, but not in the presentation mode.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I decided to title my talk as All is Well, said as All is Well, taken from an iconic Bollywood movie called Three Idiots. So in this movie, these three goofy friends, if something goes wrong or if there is a stressful situation, they simply put their hands on their heart and just chant, all is well. So I thought that would be a nice topic which will benefit today. Okay. So I'm speaking today in the capacity as someone who has moved many times in my career, say from India to Germany to UK to Saudi Arabia to Netherlands, and this just makes me like a long distance migratory bird. However, moving comes with its own problems, and it's not easy, least to say, as we have discussed beforehand. But to keep this talk in time, I have designed some anchor points which were provided to me by the organizers. So I will just try to address those points to stay on time. Okay, the first point is how to overcome leaving your support system behind when you move abroad. Moving, as in my case, comes with an inherent struggle to overcome leaving your support system behind. I would say one solution is that you start building up the so-called micro support system. So what this micro support system is, it is mostly made up of 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars, the most important pillar is the emotional support. That means it's your friends and your family back home. You talk to them, you stay in touch with them. The second is the professional support. These are the mentors and colleagues who help you how to navigate in the new lab and maybe also how to interact with your colleagues and supervisor. And the third is the practical support. And these are the people who have gone through this moving by themselves, who have the experience, and you can talk to them and you can ask them questions like how to navigate the landscape. And once you are given a bit of a breathing space, then you can actually redefine this micro support system and you can redefine the home. So you can make a new home for yourself at the new place. Now, once you have moved, the next pressure is to perform well in the lab. That creates immense work pressure on you, and this can simply lead then to the burnouts. So how to avoid these burnouts? What I have experienced, these situations actually get worse when the move is a long distance move, like when it's intercontinental, when you move from say China or India to US, which is like day and night differences. The mental health actually takes a nosedive when you work all day in the lab and then want to chat to your family and friends in the nighttime. And then this disrupts your sleep cycle. And then it can snowball quickly into burnouts. So one of the solutions is that you don't rely too much on this, talking back to family. You take conscious decisions that you decide time slots to talk to your friends and family so that you don't compromise on your sleep hours. And in between, you dedicate time to yourself as well. Just take a day off. If there's a long weekend, just take it off and go to visit some, say, cultural or historical place, and don't work on the weekends. Simple. Instead, you visit or invite a friend or a colleague over to the weekend. So don't because to do more work in the lab, you want to stay in the lab all the time. So you spend weekends in the lab as well, which is actually then creating a lot of problems and then can turn into the burnouts. And there is a problem with some of our cultures, like I'm also part of that culture, where we don't say no to things. We overcome it and we say yes to everything. So we have to be very careful and be very clear to say no if there is an overcommitment problem. So we have to learn to say no. And finally, the other solution is that you simply learn something local. If you are spending a lot of time in the lab, just take some time out and go to, say, a language school, just learn something new, meet new friends, meet new people. It's kind of a way out to vent out your pressure as well. Now, you're working long times in the lab, but there's an additional problem, which is that administrative and HR related issues. A lot of paperwork you have to do, family visas, accommodations, insurance, appointments at foreign office, blah, blah, blah. So you start to blame yourself because you're trying to overcompensate. And that again increases the risk of burnout. If you ask me what is the solution, I would say you simply don't be shy. Just send as many emails or send as many messages to the HR and the related staff because they're there to help you. So don't try to do everything by yourself. Okay, don't push, don't force yourself to just do everything by yourself. There are people who are there to support you. Just avail that support. Now, what are the tools that you stay in one piece when the experiments fail for months in a lab? The other problem is you're spending many hours in the lab, but there is no progress, only because the experiments are not successful, they're failing. The first thing you need to know is that it's a common problem, okay? So it is not, you stop blaming yourself. It's not only you that you're failing. Show some resilience, don't give up. And I would say, however, if it reaches to a point that it cannot be fixed, don't be afraid to change direction or project objectives in a way which you can achieve later. Talk to your supervisor. This is very important. Be direct with your supervisor and discuss them and be open to discuss them. Suggest changes if needed and be logical and be polite and professional in your arguments with your supervisor. And what I say is sometimes changing the system is not giving up. It is simply growing up. So don't get stuck to something if you know it will never work. Now, the other point is that, is it possible to reframe failure as progress? If you ask me, I would say yes, because failure is actually feedback. But this feedback is hard, but it is powerful at the same time. So you can reframe this into two ways. One is emotional reframing. You can say, oh, of course, the failure hurts, but this is not what defines me. I can take this and I can improve myself. And the second one is cognitive reframing. This means you just take a step back and you just think, oh, what went wrong here? What was the problem? Was there a structural problem? Was that, what kind of gaps were there? And uh, what will I do next time to fix these problems? So you can actually learn from your failures. Finally, what is the importance of recognizing the support networks, such as international student groups and local communities? I would say, speaker before me, you said that you actually, you organize things yourself, which was actually a way out. So this is my message here as well. So you take the initiative, you become the mentor of students, you organize seminars, you create academic communities, you create, and you serve on them and be the leader and be the example. And just don't be a beneficiary of the support system, just be the part of the support system. This not only helps you and other students, but also I would say it reflects on your leadership qualities as well. I would say, in short, the contribution generates connections. So what is the toolkit? If you ask me, what is the toolkit for the first year to survive in the lab? I would say you slowly but steadily you extend your comfort zone. So you are here in this fair zone and learning zone. You simply push the boundary and you can then go into the growth zone. And you simply convert your challenge zone to the comfort zone with time and just say all is well in the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashit, for what was a nice talk. And now I guess with all the speakers, we have some really nice discussions and some nice talks. So let's start with the question and answer sessions. A lot of we are seeing a lot of questions put in the chat box in the Q&A section, and the speakers have already begun to answer some of these questions which were directed to them. So. feel free to put specific questions there as well, so for the speakers to answer. And the general questions are something which we will now relay to the speakers. So let's start off the discussion with this question: that is there something which you did not end up considering when starting a new lab, but then when you were in the midst of it, then you realized that this is something quite important to consider from your own experiences. So this question is open to all the speakers. So it would be great if you could share your thoughts about this. Dr. Ashit, maybe you can
Yeah,
start
I
off.
can
Yep.
start. So I think, yes, some things go under the radar when you move into a new lab. I would say first thing is you learn a lot of things. It's not only the cultural things. There is a way of working in a lab. So there is a kind of a structure in a lab. Huh? People work in a different fashion what you might have done in the previous lab. So you have to adapt and be part of that system as well. Don't try to change the system, I would say. If you're a beginner, oh no, this is my way, this is the way I work, this is fine. But if the lab is working for years and years in a certain fashion, try to adapt. Try to first kind of be part of the system and be easy with your colleagues. Don't take fights with colleagues, okay? Just be accommodating. And once you gain trust of your friends, of your colleagues, those colleagues eventually become your friends, huh? And once you start making friends in the new lab, the life becomes much easier. That's a simple, I would say, a kind of a way out.
Dr. Fernando, maybe do you have some thoughts about this?
Well, as the previous speaker say, you have uh, to fit in the lab. Don't you don't need to change the rules because this is how they work. Even in the same country, in the same institute, you can find different labs that works totally different. So it's not always the same. So you have to look carefully how they works and always and I suggest always uh, have a direct communication with your advisor, your PI, because it's something that, in my case, was really important and crucial during my learning curve in the Netherlands. So, as I say before, the structure that I followed before was totally different when I arrived to the Netherlands, which it was really good, but I have to understand that I was in another country, in another place that works with different stuff. Even with is something really small changes in your mind can help you a lot.
Thank you for that answer. Dr. Tatsuya, would you like to also comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes against what I presented, but when I was a student, I didn't know what I wanted. But I was quite lucky because I was in a relatively new lab where I could have a lot of time with my PI. So through the discussion conversation, I learned a lot how to be a scientist. And then I moved to a postdoc lab, which is more hands off, but I was already, well, I think more confident and trained, so I could grow into a more independent researcher. So this kind of step helped. So if I do this again, I will think more about what I want, and then accordingly, I have to choose what kind of lab I go.
Yeah. And Dr. Iliana as well.
Yes, I would say exactly the same, that it's really good to adapt, and also it's really important to know and to learn how to ask for help. Not only your PI, not only your lab coworkers, to all the people that are interacting with you. You can also always ask for help. And also, if you feel like completely lost because you are in another country, you can also even ask for psychological help, because really depression could be strike you really, really hard, really, really fast, and you can really know what is happening. So it's really good to ask for help if you need that help, and if you don't deny that you are feeling that, just accept it and ask for help to do something to cope with that feeling.
Thank you for that. So let's move on to another question which came up for all the speakers, that uh, how do you manage your work-life balance in the case of any, so if you have some kind of time constraints owing to like either health issues or some kind of family commitments or anything on those lines. So in that context, do you see flexibility as a challenge if any of your students or collaborators or someone faces these kind of issues in a new lab? So, Dr. Tatsuya, maybe you can comment on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly where the alignment is important. If you know about your condition up front, you definitely need to talk to your potential supervisor and plan accordingly. So that's one thing. And also, if things change during your time in a lab, I think having established this nice feedback cycle where you can openly talk about what you need and learn what they expect you, I think this helps adjust things. So it's a general answer, but that's how I would approach.
Thank you. Dr. Elia, maybe you would like to comment on this?
Yes. Well, I think that important thing is to interact and to learn how to interact with each other, and how to um, how to really express uh, how are you going, and what all the other people it's also doing for that. So that's something important that you can do.
Yep, thank you. Because we are getting a lot of questions right now, so let's try to move on with the other questions as well. So one question again to all the speakers is that, does anyone have any advice on starting in a new lab that is still being set up? This is basically like a new lab or a new department that if someone is joining. So in that case, how are their challenges different? So if any of the speakers would like to comment on that.
Yeah, I can start.
Yep.
So I think there's two phases. One is it can be a blessing in disguise in a way, because if there's a new PI and you are like his or her very first students, you would have a lot of interaction together. You will have a lot of time to discuss on the projects, and you can design things and be kind of a really well supervised. But at the same time, things might take time, like the ordering system or the administrative system might not be sorted out. So it can also uh, kind of slow you down. The other problem could be that if it is a very tiny group, then uh, there's less kind of a social exposure as well with other colleagues. So I would say it has its ups and downs, but in both ways, you can thrive at a new place if with a new PI, if you know what you want to achieve and what you want to do together. Yeah.
Thank you. And I also saw Dr. Fernando wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, you have to take in mind that is the place where you are, right? So it's not the same to be in, as I say in my talk, in a small country, in a small country, in a small town, that it go be a PhD or a postdoc, in, for instance, in London or in Amsterdam, where you can have different activities outside. And specifically, when you arrive to a new lab, something that it helped me a lot is that in Groningen, I don't know in other in other universities in the Netherlands happens, but they give you a small book that it's called a Master on Your PhD, and it gives you a really good radiography how you have to identify which kind of group or a research group you are arriving, because as the previous speaker said, it's not the same when you are in a small group. Your interaction needs to be totally different because it's direct with your PI, and when you are in a well-established group, when your PI is really is a rock star in science, the interactions are less, but they tell you how to interact, because and maybe in the first time you are not have direct interaction with your PI. Maybe your interaction is going to be with the postdocs and senior PhD students. So you have to identify which kind of group are you arriving, because they have different advantage. For instance, if you arrived or you became part of a member of a well-established group, it's easier to have exposure in the field. But it's not different. It's different when you are in a small group with your PI is new. Maybe you are going to publish a lot, but the many people in the field is not know or know you about your work. So it's different the situation. So the name of the book is Mastering Your PhD. If somebody wants, is something helpful for PhD students, but also for a postdoc to identify these key points.
Yep. Thank you for that. In view of the time, we will just ask one last question to everyone. That what was the role of supervisors in your scientific career? Have they provided support for your decisions, or uh, did they only support you scientifically? So would anyone like to comment on the role of supervisors?
Well, I can comment a little bit. I think that depends on also in the lab that you are coming to, and even in the country. I don't know. For example, in Mexico, it was completely different. Normally, it was like what they were saying, and that's it. But when I just came here in Sweden, because it's not that hierarchical, it's more spread and open to everybody. Talking with my PI, it was more open to, okay, maybe you have this idea, you can do it, also this, or you can try new these things. So we have really a discussion what to do, what not to do. Not she was not only saying me do this and that's it. She was really open to discuss and to suggest new things. And if I'm suggesting another new experiment or another new line of investigation, we can do that. So it depends so much in your work. Something that you can do is, for example, depends on you. It's what I did when I was looking for my postdoc position is looking to the different PIs, how which one I will choose, and also if I have some question, I ask so the former students or the former postdoc from that PI, how was to work with that PI? Because you never know really how is it going to be until you are in front of that PI. And maybe your experience is going to be different, but at least you may know how she or he interacts with other PIs, with other people, with other postdocs. So that's a good thing.
Thank you for that, Dr. Elian. And in view of time, I think we need to stop here. We need to end the webinar, but we would really like to thank all the speakers today for sharing their valuable insights and ensuring some nice advices and some nice tips upon the Plantae community. And I would also like to thank the Plantae community for helping us organize this webinar. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you on the next one. And again, a big shout out to all our speakers, and hopefully that to our attendees, you get something out of this. Again, this is recorded, and we'll post that, and you can share it with any of your colleagues that might benefit from this content. And so with that, I hope everyone have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again, and bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.